In the early 2000s, one company ruled the world of mobile phones. Not Apple, not Samsung, Nokia. Nokia controlled more than 40% of the global mobile phone market. That means nearly 1 out of every 2 phones on Earth was made by Nokia. They weren't just successful, they were unstoppable. Their phones were everywhere. In cities, in villages, in schools, in offices, in the hands of millions. And then they disappeared. Not slowly, not quietly, but suddenly. Today, Nokia is no longer the king of mobile phones. And this is the story of how one of the most powerful tech giants in history lost everything. Nokia did not begin as a technology company. In fact, it didn't start with phones at all. Nokia was founded in 1865 as a paper mill. Yes, paper. Over the decades, the company experimented. Rubber, cables, electronics. They were never afraid to explore. And by the late 20th century, they found their future: telecommunications. In the 1990s and early 2000s, the world was changing. People wanted to connect, to talk, to message, to stay close. And Nokia was ready. Their phones were simple, strong, affordable, reliable. They didn't confuse users. They didn't break easily. They just worked. And people trusted them. Nokia didn't just sell phones. They became part of people's lives. By the early 2000s, Nokia had become the largest mobile phone manufacturer in the world. They sold hundreds of millions of devices. In some countries, the word phone and the word Nokia meant the same thing. Their ringtone became one of the most recognizable sounds on Earth. They weren't chasing trends, they were the trend. By 2007, Nokia was on top of the world. They dominated the mobile industry. They had more market share than all of their major competitors combined. They had factories, research labs, offices. Across the globe, investors trusted them. Customers loved them. Employees believed in them. Nokia was no longer just a company, it was an empire. And like most empires, they believed they were untouchable. But history has a pattern. When companies grow too large, they often grow too slow. And when they grow too slow, they stop listening. Nokia had built its success on hardware, buttons, keypads, durable designs. But the world was changing. And Nokia didn't see it. Not yet. In January 2007, something quietly shifted. On a stage in California, a man walked out holding a device. No keyboard, no buttons, just a screen. He called it the iPhone. At first, many people didn't understand it. It looked strange. It felt risky. It felt unnecessary. But some people saw what it really was. A computer that fit in your pocket. And among those people were Nokia's competitors. Inside Nokia, there was no panic, no fear. There was confidence. Some executives even laughed. They believed people wanted buttons. They believed people wanted durability. They believed people wanted simplicity. They saw the iPhone as fragile, as expensive, as a toy. After all, Nokia had been building phones for decades. Apple had just arrived. Who could really threaten them? Apple wasn't just building a phone. They were building a platform, apps, touchscreens, internet browsing, music, maps. The phone was no longer just a phone. It was becoming a lifestyle, and Nokia was not prepared for that. Nokia's biggest weakness wasn't technology. It was culture. They were large. They were complex. They were divided. Different teams fought for control. Different departments had different visions. And decisions took time. In technology, time is everything. Nokia was losing it. Inside Nokia, two sides were forming. One wanted to protect the old system. The other wanted to change. They argued. They delayed. They disagreed. And while they debated, Apple moved forward. Google moved forward. Samsung moved forward. Nokia stood still. Nokia's software was called Symbian. It was powerful, but it was complicated. Developers struggled with it. Users were confused by it. Apple's system was simple. Google's system was flexible. Nokia had a chance to adapt. They had time, but they waited. And in technology, waiting is dangerous. Sales began to slow. Market share began to drop. Customers began to leave. And for the first time in decades, Nokia felt something unfamiliar. Fear. But by the time they reacted, it was already too late. By the early 2000s, Nokia was no longer leading. They were no longer shaping the future. They were trying to survive. And in 2011, they made a decision that would define their fate. They partnered with Microsoft. They abandoned their own software and chose Windows Phone. It was a gamble, a big one. Windows Phone wasn't bad. In fact, it was quite good. But it was late. By then, developers had already chosen sides. Users had already chosen sides. Ecosystems had already formed. iOS, Android, apps, communities, services. Nokia had entered a race that was already over. In 2013, Nokia sold its mobile phone business to Microsoft. For many people, this felt impossible. For others, it felt inevitable. The company that once ruled the world of phones no longer made them. An empire had fallen. Not because of one mistake, but because of many small ones. Nokia didn't fail because it was stupid. It failed because it was slow. It failed because it was comfortable. It failed because it believed its past success would protect its future. But in technology, nothing protects you. The story of Nokia is not really about phones. It is about change. Markets change. People change. Technology changes. And those who refuse to change eventually disappear. Nokia had everything: money, talent, trust. But they lost the one thing that mattered most: speed. Every empire believes it will last forever. History says otherwise. Great companies do not fail overnight. They fade, quietly, slowly, and then, suddenly. In the end, History doesn't care who you were, only whether you changed in time.